Welcome, everyone. We're so happy to have you here with us tonight. We are here in Milwaukee tonight at Trickleby Cafe. If you have not heard of it, Trickleby is an amazing little cafe on 44th and North, and it is a pay what you can cafe. It is a really special place, and we are honored tonight to have Chef Zakia Courtney with us. She is going to teach us all how to make delicious greens that your children are just going to gobble up. A couple questions or a couple requests that we have for you tonight, because we have a camera and 3 computers going on in the same space. We would like you to put any questions you have tonight in the chat. So we've actually disabled your ability to unmute yourselves only because we don't want a bunch of noise bouncing off of each other's computers here. So, but we welcome your questions. If you have questions as we're going along, please type them into the chat and we will have Chef Courtney answer them for you. All right. So having said that, I'm going to turn control of this meeting over to Chef Courtney.
Hey everybody, I am Chef Mama Zakia. I am so pleased to be with you all this evening, wherever you're at. We are going to have some fun, right? And we're going to have some fun preparing one of my absolutely favorite foods, if it's not the most favorite food I have, and that is greens, right? And so everybody who's on should have received an ingredient list, right? And so hopefully, you're gonna cook along. If you're ready to cook along, you got all of your stuff, you're all set to go. Why don't you raise your hand? Or if you have any questions like, "Oh, I didn't get my ingredient list," we'll make sure that it comes up in the chat so you know exactly, what to do. Now, I always ask this question: how many people are familiar with greens? And people like, well, yeah. Some people say, well, you mean salad greens? I'm like, no, not salad greens. They say, well, how about spinach? Well, yeah, spinach is one of the greens, that we can have, and then depending upon what community, you're from, you'll say like collards, right? Yeah, collards is one of the most popular greens, and that's what we're going to cook tonight. But, greens go so much further than just collards, spinach, mustard and turnip. And sometimes kale is what people know about, right? But again, tonight we're going to focus on collards. But the great thing about the recipe that I'm sharing with you all tonight, it doesn't matter which green you're using. You can use the same basic recipe. And then what you can do is take and create your own flavors. Because sometimes people like, to spice things up. You do that at home. And for children, nah, we're not going to give them too much spice. In fact, tonight, I'm not going to even use the pepper, because as much as I love pepper, every little child is not like my grandchildren, who they can tolerate, the pepper. Oh, by the way, I have 52 grandchildren, and people like, what? How did you get to 52 grandchildren? Well, we have a blended extended family of 15. No, I didn't give birth to 15 children. I only gave birth to 6. But we have this blended extended family that we don't make any distinction between half and step and all of that. We just one great big family. So when you're dealing with 15, it don't take long to get to 52. And when you talk about great grandchildren, I got about 26, 29 of them. I'm not even sure, because that number, is constantly growing. Anyway, so I'm saying that to say, how did I start talking about that? Whose grandchildren say that their most favorite food is greens? Well, my grandchildren. And they can deal with the spice too. But not everybody can deal with pepper. And because of that, that's why I left the pepper, off tonight. But I do want to look at, and I think you can see in the camera, some of the greens that are here on the side. All right. Because there are a lot of things that people are not familiar with, right? One of the things about, greens is the vitamin K and the nutrient denseness of greens. When you're eating greens, you just can't go wrong. You just can't get wrong. You are going to get a lot of the vitamins and nutrients that you need, on a daily basis here. And this particular one is called Swiss chard, right? Swiss chard comes in a variety of ways. It comes yellow chard, red chard, or what they call rainbow chard. And you know what? I'm gonna actually ask Tamika. Tamika, I need some water. I need some water. And if you don't need the hood, you can turn it off. Sorry about that, y'all. As soon as I start talking, then my throat started feeling funny. Anyway, so this is Swiss chard. Swiss chard is very, very similar in texture to this particular vegetable, right? And how many of you know what this is? Let me turn it around so you don't see the label. Anybody know what it is? If you do, why don't you put it in the chat right quick? Not this one. I already told you what this is. This is Swiss chard. What's this vegetable here? What's this green? And those that are monitoring, if anybody says something, let me know. Not yet? Y'all gonna let me get away with it that easily? Okay. So let me just take it apart. Somebody has to know what this is. Now, I'm gonna age myself, but there was a cartoon that whenever this particular person ate this, all of a sudden he got really mighty and strong. Y'all still don't know what it is? You got a winner? Okay, who's our winner? And what did they say? Spinach. It is spinach. And that cartoon character was none other than Popeye. Not Popeye's chicken, but Popeye the sailor, right? And so that would make him really strong. And as a kid growing up, we would see that, and we would see that Popeye would be going through all kinds of challenges. And as soon as unfortunately, it was in a canned spinach, but when he would get his spinach and he eat his spinach, all of a sudden he'd become great and strong. And the reality is, hey, spinach will make you strong. It helps to keep building your immune system, right? So with the Swiss chard in texture is very similar to spinach. And because of that, you can very easily mix it. And if you look at your list, it's one of the greens that I said that you could have. Now, some of you may have bought Swiss chard today. And if you did, that's fine. Also, too, make sure that you use the entire leaf. I've seen people throw away these beautiful stems. Don't throw away these stems. These are totally edible. And not only are they edible, but they're good. And so if you have Swiss chard, in terms of what you're doing today, all you want to do is take that Swiss chard and you're going to just rip it off, right? And the reason you're going to do that is because the stem takes a little bit longer to cook than the chard itself, than the leaves itself. So when you're cooking with this, what you do is you take all of the green part off, and then you cut this up and saute it. And you know what? It reminds me in a sense of how people use turnips in turnip greens, but it's really, really good, okay? So if you got Swiss chard and you want to combine it with some spinach, absolutely wonderful. Another green that we have here that is similar in texture, and you know what? This comes in a variety of ways. Some people refer to it as baby. Then it gets a little bit bigger. Then it gets a little bit bigger. It's very easy to grow. And once again, does anybody know what this green is called? More hints? You find them in Asian restaurants a lot. You all are probably even eating and don't even know what you're eating, right? Kind of looks like celery on the outside, but it doesn't. And it does have a little crunch to it. It is bok choy. Okay, yay for the person who did it. Now, if y'all were here, I was like, here, now it's yours. But anyway, since y'all not here, just so that you know, you're absolutely right. Bok choy is absolutely great. And again, as with any of the nutrients, the greens that we have, they're very dense in nutrients. This is also part of the cabbage family, all right? And so anywhere that you would use cabbage, you could use bok choy. And again, it cooks up really fast. So it's a perfect companion, to the Swiss chard, the spinach. It has very similar textures. Different though, as far as taste is concerned. There are greens that exist that we didn't even know we could eat. In fact, what we do as a society, anybody recognize these? Let's see if I can pull one out. Anybody recognize that? Let me get another one. Y'all recognize it because when spring comes, people start calling the weed killers, right? And because we do that, we spray it, you can't eat the ones that's growing on your lawn. It is dandelion. It's absolutely dandelion. And dandelion is in that family that's called bitter greens. You can eat this raw, okay, and it's gonna have a bite to it. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's gonna have a bite to it. In fact, my kids have some stories about us using dandelion greens a few times during the year to cleanse the liver and all that nasty salad. But anyway, dandelion has a lot of really great properties. And yes, it does help to build your immune system. It's great, you know, if you're gonna do a detox. It's also great as far as juicing is concerned. In fact, all of the greens I just talked about are great for juicing. But if you're looking for a detox, you look no further than dandelion. But again, make sure you buy the organic dandelion in the store unless you have a yard or a garden where you have not sprayed it, okay? This one I know people will recognize, right? And you recognize the bottom of it, right, as beets. But how many people knew that you can eat the entire plant, right? So yeah, so with the beet tops, these taste really good too. Whether or not you're using it in a salad or you're cooking with it, you know, you can use the beet tops and they're just absolutely great. Again, people typically, if they get the beets, they're gonna take it, you know, cut off, you know, the tops, throw it away. And no, you don't want to do that because you just wasted like half of your food. All right. And they're really good. Now, the thing with beets, though, and as everybody knows, and I didn't hold it long enough, that it will dye your hands real good and anything else that you happen to put on it. But not all beets will do that. My favorite beet to eat is, oh, I shouldn't have told you all that. I already told you what it is. All right. Is this. All right. And this is a golden beet. This won't dye your hands. It's a little bit sweeter, I would say, and milder than red beets. I use these in greens in place of turnips sometimes because it's sweeter, you know, than turnips. And again, I was going to make you all guess, and most people never guess what it is because they, you know, they're not accustomed to it. This too has tops, you know, that grow on it too, and it's totally edible. And I couldn't find any golden beets with the tops on it today. So all I was able to do is just talk about it. But my point is this. When you look at the display that I have here, I have what's called lacinato kale, elephant kale, I have red kale, I have green kale. The greens that are available to us is unlimited. In fact, on the table, you see the carrots there, they even have tops on it. You can eat that too, right? So it's like the entire plant, you know, is edible. And whether or not you're doing it, you know, for yourself, you know, at home or for your children, you know, in your daycare settings, what makes a difference to children? First of all, they're going to look and see, like, does it look good? Okay, that's the first thing with their eyes. Then they're going to want to know, they're going to smell it. Does it smell good? Right? And so they're going to do all of this stuff before they do the ultimate thing. And that is what? They taste it to see if it's going to taste good. So if it looks good, if it smells good and it tastes good, then you got them. And you know what? They'll be eating greens. Now, I have had students, or I'm saying students now, I'm going back to my educator days, but I've had children say, I don't like vegetables. And what I find is that even with the adults, those who say they don't like vegetables is based upon the people that are around them who have said the same thing, or their lack of experience with them. Again, if it looks good, if it smells good, then they're going to try it. And even if you just try just a little bit at a time, we can make it happen, okay? And so we got plenty of greens. I got leeks over there. It was in the onion family. I can ask you all this. Let's see who can guess this one. So it's kind of white on the bottom, purple on the top. It can be a little hairy. Any guesses? Close, but no. It is close, but no. It's a rutabaga. A rutabaga, right? Yeah, it's in the turnip family. It's sweeter again than a turnip. And I use it like I would any other vegetable that I'm putting in greens, but I just cut it up, and put it in there. And what it does is it adds color and it adds flavor, to your pot. All right. So let's get to cooking with these greens.
A question about cabbage. Can you cook cabbage with greens?
All the time. It's called black and white greens. Okay, all the time. And that's I actually just recently won a greens cooking contest in Atlanta, Georgia. I was down there and people encouraged me to go ahead and enter it. And I'm like, Georgia, that's where Georgia greens grow. And you got all these people with all these traditions, and then they had different categories, but they were only gonna have one winner, so I'm competing against people who put meat in their greens, people who do raw greens, people do all kinds of things with their greens. And so folks encouraged me to go ahead and enter the contest, and I did. And what did I make? I made what's called black and white greens. And black and white greens are just simply collards with cabbage. It just absolutely blew the folks away. I won $500 for it, and I was happy. So in answer to your question, can you put cabbage in your greens? You absolutely can. And you can put any kind of cabbage in there, that you like to do. What I would tell you with the cabbage, though, if you're adding cabbage to collards, do that last. Let your collards cook a little bit, because they take a little bit longer to cook than cabbage does, right? And nobody likes overcooked cabbage. So again, you cook your collards just like you're doing for this recipe that we have here. And then when the collards have maybe about 15 minutes or something like that, that's when you would add your cabbage, all right? Or cabbage sprouts, you can do that too. So tonight, as I said, we're going to do collards, and these collards came out of my garden yesterday. Even here in Wisconsin, collards are still able, to grow, and that's a good thing. And so the greens that I'm using tonight, I just picked them yesterday. I'm so proud of them too. So what we're going to do is we're not going to use the stem, tonight, even though the stem is edible. The stem would take longer, to cook, and we don't want to do that. So what I suggested for people to do was either to chop their greens up, or buy them all chopped up. But what we're going to do is just simply rip the leaf off the stem, okay? And you do that by just grabbing hold of the bottom of it in one hand. You kind of start it a little bit and just rip it off. And you see how fast that comes off, or how easily that comes off. And if it's a little bit of stem that's left on it, that's okay. That's not going to hurt anything, okay? My grandchildren like doing this too. I like letting them do it, because that gives me one less thing, to do, right? And so after we have ripped the stems off, you see how easily that came off? Then what I'll do is I'll take some of the greens, or maybe all of these, and just roll them up. Okay. And I have to remember you all are cooking along with me. Does everybody have their greens ready? Okay. All right, so after you roll the greens, like I have it right here, as loose, as tight as you like, then what you're gonna do is you're gonna cut them. And the size that I'm cutting these are anywhere from a 1/2 inch to a 1/4 inch, right? We just hold it up just so you can see it. It almost kind of looks shredded, but it's not, okay? Now, mind you, as I said, with collards, we de-stem it. With the other greens that are there, no, I wouldn't de-stem anything else, that we have. And again, some people don't destem, their collards, and that's fine. That just takes longer to cook. The way that I was raised, and I don't know about you all, but the way I was raised, I mean, we didn't eat fresh greens all the time. That was like for a holiday. And the reason we didn't eat it all the time is because it would take so long to cook. They actually would cook out the nutrients that was in the greens so that what they call the pot liquor was more nutrient than the greens were, because they cooked it for like 3 hours. It doesn't take that long, to go ahead and cook greens. And I still to this day don't know why people were taking so long. Maybe because they had meat in it. Maybe that's why they cooked it so long. I'm not sure. But anyway, so you don't do that. And then I'm going to do a quick chop just right down the middle to cut it up a little bit more. Okay. And so now I have my greens that are chopped and ready to go. And of course, they were washed. Okay, of course, they were washed. When you're cooking with greens, you want to make sure you wash your greens really, really good. Because the last thing anybody wants to do is to have gritty greens. And I don't know if any of you ever had them. I've had them before, not because of what I cooked, what somebody else did. It's like, oh no, I knew right away. They did not wash those greens good. And whether or not they're coming out the garden or coming out the store, you want to make sure that you wash them really well. I like to wash my greens like 3 times, put them in a sink of cold water, swish them, up and down, drain that, put them in, run it again, swish them up and down, drain that, and then do it one more time so I can make sure there's no grit in my greens. Some greens are even harder to wash, like spinach. Man, you got to do a great job with spinach. Other than that, you're going to be crunching like, thinking that you're eating dirt, and you don't want that, right? Okay, so I have my olive oil already in my pot. And if I'm going too fast for anybody, y'all let me know, okay? So at this point, you should have your olive oil in the pot and bring it up to temperature. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking y'all had the recipe. I'm sorry. We have 1/3 cup of olive oil. Okay. We have 1/3 cup of olive oil, and that's already in the pot. What I'm going to do with that is I'm going to add the onions, and the recipe calls for 1 medium onion chopped. Give that a quick stir. It also calls for 4 cloves of garlic that's already chopped. I like garlic. I like onion. I also don't like to cut things really small because I like to see my veggies. When you're dealing with children, you may not, necessarily want to do that. They may not want to see the garlic or the onions. But when it comes down to flavor, that's why you have them in there. If I was going to use a hot pepper, at this point, this is when I would put the hot pepper in. But, I'm not going to do that because most children, can't tolerate that. All right. So if you have any questions, you can ask the questions as we go along. Everybody at this point who's cooking along should have their onions and have their garlic, in the olive oil, and you're going to let that get translucent. Okay, it's going to cook until it's translucent. And it should be smelling really good right now too. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just add the greens. These are the ones that I just chopped. And I have some more too. I always wish I had like a mirror. I'm gonna hold this up a little bit so you all can see it. Can you see it? Okay. And I'm just stirring it, mixing the onions around in it. And I like to season my food in layers. And also too, if you notice, I have not added any water to it yet. And that's because you don't really need to. A lot of times, not yet at least, a lot of times people would add so much water, the greens would just be swimming around, in it. And you don't have to, because it makes its own water. Okay, it definitely makes its own water. So I'm gonna add a little, on this layer, I'm gonna add a little onion powder to it. And the recipe calls for 1 tablespoon of onion powder. Again, we're seasoning in layers. So I got that in there. And I'm gonna add some more greens. Now this may look like a lot of greens, but it's really not. Because when this cooks down, this will cook down to like half the amount. All right. Add the garlic powder. The recipe says 1 tablespoon of garlic powder. I'm gonna add that. Stir it around. That's where this time goes by so fast, right? So I'm stirring this. And if you look, you see everything is sauteing really well. And some people do eat, and make sauteed greens. That's not what we're doing tonight. Add some more greens. This time, what I'm going to add is called liquid smoke. Now, I know a lot of people are accustomed to having turkey and ham and whatever else it is, in your greens, salt pork and all that stuff, to flavor your greens. But the liquid smoke does the same thing without the oink or without the mousse. It does the absolute same thing. So we add our liquid smoke. And when you're using liquid smoke, you want to be mindful that you don't do too much, because you don't want your food tasting like an ashtray, right? So more is definitely not better. So we're continuing to stir that. Now I am going to add a little vegetable stock. Mind you, I said vegetable stock rather than water, because I want to maintain the richness of that flavor. So the recipe calls for a cup of vegetable stock. That was about a half a cup that I put in right now. Let me tell you something about vegetable stock. We stir this around a little bit. I'm gonna add some more to it in a minute, but let me tell you about vegetable stock. Vegetable stock is one of those things that you can make yourself. And it is so easy, especially with this holiday period coming up, because you're cutting up your celery. What do you do with the bottom of the celery? We throw it away. You're cutting up your bell peppers. What do we do with the seeds in the core? We throw it away. We're cutting up garlic. What do we do with our garlic? We take this part here and we throw it away. What do we do with our onions? When we get the peel and stuff, what do? We throw it away. You all just threw away your vegetable stock, because you can take all of this and put it in some water with some bay leaf and a little salt and let it simmer. You can even put it in your crock pot overnight, right? And when you wake up in the morning, you got the best smelling house. People think you've been cooking all night long, right? And it's just simply your vegetable stock. And it's so much cheaper than what it is that you have to pay for when you buy vegetable stock in the store. So don't throw away your onion peels, your garlic peels. Now, you can't use things like the stems from the greens. You can't do this because this would be too bitter in it. So there's some things you can't put in the vegetable stock. But things like carrots, the celery, all the things I just talked about, you can easily put that in the vegetable stock. All right. So this is continuing to cook. You all see what that looks like? How you all doing at home? Are y'all keeping up? Everybody's keeping up? Good. Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire sauce. Did you know that you can buy Worcestershire sauce without anchovies in it? An interesting thing about that is that the store brand, is the one that doesn't have the anchovies in it. So if you're trying to stay away from, food that has meat products in it, you want to get the Worcestershire sauce that does not have anchovies. Reading our labels is so, so important. I can't even imagine what they did with food before the government actually required companies to create labels. Because when you look at what's in some of our food that we take in, you have to just shake your head. And you better read the labels. And my rule of thumb is if I can't pronounce it, I'm not going to buy it. Because I don't know what that, I don't know what that is. I'm going to add just the rest of the vegetable stock instead of cup. So now I'm just going to add the other cup. And we're going to let this cook down. Now your kitchen should be smelling pretty good right about now. You put this top on it, we're going to let this cook down some, okay? There are, I have also too, I gave people options in terms of what they could put in there. I said carrots, beets, turnips, rutabaga, kohlrabi, which is out of season right now, or the stems from the Swiss chard. So tonight, what I decided to do was to use rainbow carrots, okay? That's going to go in the dish. Why rainbow? Does it add much in terms of flavor? No, it doesn't, but it adds in terms of color. Now, carrots are good. Carrots are good, and I think these are a little sweet too. And the nice thing about it is that when you put it in the dish, especially when you're dealing with children, they start to see all these colors. And that makes it a lot more appealing than if you were just giving them a plate or a bowl with just greens on it by themselves. Okay. Let's stir this again. And somebody asked me the question once, was like, how long you been cooking? How long you been cooking greens? And a long time. How long have I been doing it like this in terms of being plant-based? About 31 years. Okay. And it's not that you can't make, greens with meat, because you can. It's totally up to you. But I always like to show people that there's an alternative, to that. And it's an alternative that is nutritionally good for you, and it tastes good too. And so when we talk about, our vitamins, our minerals, things that not only make us feel good, but look good, you really can't beat it. And so I'm gonna hold this pot up again one more time. You see now that I've added the carrots, the rainbow carrots, you see the color, that's in it, and it just enhances it. One of the things that, if you cook greens too long, they start to get that drab kind of army drab color. And you don't want to do that. You don't have to do that. A lot of times people don't believe that greens can actually cook and cook well in a short amount of time. But we're going to show you tonight, by the time we finish this, we will be able, we'll be able to do that. Is there an ingredient that you've noticed I have not used yet? And that's the question for y'all. Is there an ingredient that I have not used yet that you have observed? Absolutely. You have not seen me use any salt, and you will not see me use any salt. Why? This is why. The amount of salt or sodium that we need in our diet on a daily basis should be no more than 2,300 milligrams of sodium. Okay, it should be no more than that. It should be no more than that. In the African American community in particular, okay, hypertension is an issue, for us. So the last thing we need is more salt. But just totally in Western, in the West, period, we take in too much sodium. Example is this. How many of you have had those packets of ramen noodles? Almost everybody, especially if you were in college. That was like the mainstay of your diet, the ramen noodles. So you boil the noodles and then you put those seasoning packets in. Guess what? In one serving, and I'm not kidding. In fact, I'm gonna start carrying, I'm gonna buy a pack, okay? Also beware anything that's too cheap. Anyway, in one pack of ramen noodles, over 900 milligrams of sodium. Now, if you're only supposed to have 2,300 a day, and you just took in 900 with one packet, and you know you didn't eat just one packet, you might have ate two. By the end of the day, you may have eaten three. Well, you didn't know, you just blew it. You know, you just blew it. So because of that, the sodium intake that we should be taking, I don't use table salt or iodine salt. I do use sea salt sometimes. I do use Himalaya salt sometimes. But most of the time, what I do in place of salt is that I use liquid aminos. Okay. This is kind of like a soy. Yeah, it's made, well, yeah, it is made from soy. It is made from soy, but it gives you that saltiness kind of taste that we're looking for. Now, a lot of people say, well, how do I season my food if I don't use salt? Well, the thing is this, salt is not only a preservative, because they use salt to preserve meat before we have refrigeration, but salt is a flavor enhancer, okay? Not a seasoning, it's a flavor enhancer. So if your food with all the herbs and all the things that you have put into it, and here, you know, we got garlic and onions and things like that, with all of that we put into it, then if you wanted to add a little bit of salt, what it's going to do is enhance it. And again, because I choose not to use salt, I'm going to add my liquid Brags now. And I said 1/4 teaspoon, you know, goes in there. Now I'm not measuring. And the reason that I'm not measuring is because recipes are designed to be a guide, you all, okay? You may want a little bit more or a little bit less onion, or a little bit more, a little bit less garlic, and that's okay if that's what you want to do. That's absolutely, you know, okay. Yes. I did not, but you can. I did not, but you can. And I do that, especially if I'm doing the black and white greens, I'll add bell peppers, but not for this recipe. Oh yeah, I would have sauteed them with the onions and the garlic. I thought they were asking me, can you add some now? I'm like, oh yeah, I can, but yeah. Yeah, you can add them now. It won't hurt anything. You can add it now. Other than that, I would have sauteed it in the beginning if that's what I was going to do, or if that's what I was going to use. Okay. Okay, so this is cooking down. This is cooking down really, you know, really good. You know, again, when we're looking at children and what they will eat, if they have an opportunity to be involved in the preparation of the food. Of course, they're not going to be at the hot stove, you know, but maybe they could pick out the color carrots, you know, that they want to have, you know, in the dish. Or if you're doing bell peppers, maybe they could pick out the color, you know, bell peppers that are going to go into the dish. Those are kinds of things that children would do and get excited about eating, right? But again, the most excitement comes is that when it tastes really, really good. Now, I've been plant-based for 31 years. And so in that time, I've created a lot of different recipes, you know, because at the time we chose to become, you know, vegetarian, we had like 6 kids, you know, at home. And we told our children, you said, like, this is what we're going to do, my husband and I, this is what we're going to do. We can't force you all to do anything, but we will no longer consume meat at home. And so they understood that. But I had 2 that gave me the most resistance. And they got all kinds of stories about the things that they did or did not do, you know, as they were challenged, especially in their teenage years, to go ahead and eat what they wanted to eat. But what's interesting about it is that the 2 that were the most resistant in terms of food are now the ones that are phenomenal vegan chefs themselves. My daughter Joya, Chef Joya, she's all over all kinds of social media. She has all kinds of celebrity clients. She does an excellent, excellent job and doing amazing with it. My son, you know, him too, who gave me a lot of resistance, you know, when they were kids, he's now, you know, a phenomenal vegan chef himself, and he has his own food truck. All right. And they're both doing well. So that just says that to me is that, one, if you know, not just persistent, but my goal was always to go ahead and create food that tastes better than what they had been accustomed to, or at least as good, you know. And so I don't have too many things that didn't like, although they still give me some hassle about eggplant, you know, at least a couple of them do. Okay. Okay, this is cooking down pretty good. Lift this up. You can see how it's doing. How's yours doing? If you're able to show it in the camera, you know, show it to the camera, show your food to the camera, see what y'all doing, right? And I don't have a monitor, so I can't see you. But yeah, let's see what you're doing. Let me know if anybody's showing their pot. Okay. You trying to give me a monitor? Oh, I can't see that. I don't want to see me, I want to see them. Okay. Trying to see it a little bit. Hold that pot up again. Somebody held that pot up. Oh yeah, okay, okay. All right, go ahead, go ahead. I want to say till they done, but no, no, really, the answer to that really is till they done. And the reason I say it like that is because depending upon, you know, where you got your greens from, how long you've had them, you know, what kind they are, things like spinach, the spinach, dandelion, the ones I showed you earlier, the Swiss chard, those cook really fast. You know, you can cook those in less than 10 minutes. The collards like we have today, they're going to be done shortly. They are going to be done shortly. And so how will you know when they're done? You'll just give it a taste test, which I need to do right now because they look like are looking like they just about done. So let's give our greens a taste test. You want to pass me a fork? Okay. Give our greens a taste test. Taste yours, and they'll let you know whether they're close to being done. Keep the top on it too, you know, while it's cooking, so you don't, lose all of your liquid that's inside. It won't all evaporate out. Also, too, you want to watch it because you want to have just enough liquid for it to continue to cook, but not too much that you have your greens swimming. They should not be swimming in it, you know. All right, so as soon as I get a fork, I'm going to go ahead and taste my greens. Thank you. And I suggest you do the same. So I'm tasting them not just for to see if they're done, but see if I need to add any other seasoning. These are good. Hold on. I'm gonna tell you in a minute. I don't want to choke. These are really good. What I am going to do is add just a little bit of agave to it, okay? There are different kinds of greens. Greens that are dark, like the collards, the lacinato kale, and others are sweeter than what the bitter greens are, like mustard and turnip. They are designed to be bitter. I know people used to add sugar, to their greens, and especially if you talk about mustard and turnip, they will add sugar to it, but it's supposed to be bitter, so you shouldn't do that. With these, I'm going to take, because I do detect like a little bit of bitterness, I'm gonna add a little agave to this. Can I get some agave? Okay. But in terms of any other season, I don't need any more garlic powder. I don't need any more any of that. So I'm gonna add some agave to this, just a little bit. And people say, how do you know how much they add and stuff? How you're not measuring anything? I'm led by my ancestors. What did my ancestors tell me to do? That's how I did it. And you see, it really wasn't that much. I would say that I probably added about a tablespoon. I'm gonna add a little bit more of the vegetable stock. And it should be cooking down well. Okay. So what are you gonna have with your greens tonight? Right? Before I get to that, how do you keep greens? As you heard me say, I went to my garden yesterday, and I got the rest of the greens that were in my garden. And what I do is I pick the greens, I will wash them, I will cut them up just like you saw right here, and then I bag them and I freeze them. I know that many of the recipes say that you're supposed to blanch them first, but my experience at being is that I retain much more flavor for me when I did it the way that I do it. Can you freeze your greens after you cook them? Yeah, you can, because then you get all your seasonings and all that stuff, in it, and it's frozen with it. But just blanching it, that just didn't work for me. Also with the greens, what else do I do with them? Other than in middle of February, I don't have to go to the store and buy any, because all I got to do is go to my freezer, my deep freezer, and just pull out, a bag. And so I really, do enjoy it, share it with my friends. Those who know me know I go south in the wintertime, and I'm taking, my harvest with me. I got this great big old trash bag. I'm not carrying it like that. I'm gonna process it, before I go. But it absolutely works, really, really well. And people do, enjoy what it is that you share with them. Again, we're making these greens just a little bit on the sweet side, just so that our children, will eat them and be happy with it. I have another fork. I'm not using the same fork. Mm-hmm. Mm. My mother said, never talk with food in your mouth. You're right, because you can choke. But that's great. Just a little bit of agave. All right. So what are you cooking with your greens tonight? I'll tell you what I got. Is that plate ready? Diana, plate ready? Just about? Okay. So I'm out of the camera for a minute, I think. But big old pan. And you know what, y'all? The crew here is just grinning because they know they're going to get a chance to eat. But anyway, in a cast iron skillet, the best thing to make cornbread in, right? And it's a seasoned skillet. I don't know how old this skillet is. I don't even remember when I got the skillet or who I got the skillet from, but it makes the absolute best fried food for sure, but it definitely makes the best cornbread. And today I made a sweet and spicy cornbread, or a jalapeno cornbread. So if you like a little bit of heat, I think you're going to enjoy this. If you don't like a little bit of heat, I still think you're going to enjoy this. So greens and cornbread go together like socks and shoes, right? Not that you got to have cornbread every time you have greens, but you're going to want to have some kinds. So I do like a coconut cornbread. I do a golden maple cornbread. I do all different kinds, of cornbread, just to go ahead and spice things up. But I also do what I call crazy greens, right? Crazy greens is where I take whatever greens I got and put it all together. So like all these greens that you see here, of course, if y'all were here, I would just give them to you. But if I have to keep them, they all are going to go into the pot, and they come out so wonderful. And that's why I call them crazy greens, right? What else do we have? Anybody say what else they have with their greens tonight?
No, they didn't say they love it, and we should be on the Food Network.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Maybe I'll send them a clip and say, hey, this person said I need to be on Food Network. All right. My daughter's been on though. No, wait. Yeah. Yeah, she was on Supermarket Stakeout, and she should have won. She should have won. She's serving it with rice. That's good. That's good. That's good. What we got? What we got? Okay. And so this is, ooh, God, it looks good. I'm getting hungrier and hungrier. All right. And so what is this? It's a piece of cornbread here on the plate. And it is what we call vegan chicken, vegan fried chicken. And so how do you have vegan fried chicken and you don't eat chicken? Well, we get creative. This is made with jackfruit. And so we got a vegan fried chicken in what we call hot honey sauce. Okay, in a hot honey sauce, right? And we're going to add our greens to this in just a few minutes, and we'll be ready to go ahead and eat. Okay. Questions or comments? Oh, I love, okay. I'd like to, well, one of the dishes I make, and I called it eggplant parmesan because whoever it is I learned it from, that's what they called it. And I didn't find out the eggplant parmesan was actually prepared a whole lot differently than what I was doing till later on in life. But I still call it the same way. So the first thing I do with eggplant is that I remove the bitterness from it. So I will slice it whichever way it is that I'm gonna use it. Then I take and I brush it, you know, with oil. And then this is when I would use some salt. Put salt on it to dry out, to pull out the bitterness. And then I would broil it. Okay, I would broil it. And then I would use it, you know, that way. That's one of the ways. I would do a layer. Somebody said they were eating with rice. With eggplant parmesan, the way I make it, I do like a layer of eggplant. Then I do a tomato-based sauce. Then I put rice on it. Then I put some more eggplant on it. And so I keep layering until I get to the top layer, and then I cover it with cheese. That's my eggplant parmesan. All right. I also use eggplant a lot in stews. And so what I would do then is that I would cube the eggplant. I would put it in the pot first before I would even saute my onions or garlic. I put it in the pot with the olive oil. Again, put the salt in it because that draws out the bitterness. Then I would add the onions and the garlic and the things like that. And I add my other vegetables. So that's what I'd like to do with eggplant. You can fry it too, but you know, that's what I like to do. Okay. Sure. No, it should be cooking down. It should be cooking down. I'll show you my pot again. You see how much vegetable stock is actually in there? Okay. And then, like I said, and you may want to add more to it. It just depends. Okay. If you have any, I would say in the refrigerator for 1 week, and then if you still have any left, go ahead and freeze it. Okay, but they last. If they last, you know that's what you would be looking at. Okay. Yeah. Well, we can send it. Yeah, I have a recipe for it, and I was gonna say, we're making that tomorrow. No, we're making something else tomorrow. But yeah, Mary will remind me, and yeah, I don't have no problem with sharing that recipe. I already had that done. My daughter, and I get this question all the time: when you gonna create a cookbook? And I haven't. I'm not gonna say I will not, but a lot of my recipes appear in my daughter's cookbooks. Cooking with Joya, she has 5, cookbooks, and the black and white greens that we talked about earlier. I think she calls it Mama's Black and White Greens. That's in there. There's a vegan chicken recipe. There's all kinds of my peanut stew recipe, is in her book too. So that's a plug for her, Cooking with Joya. She also has her own line of seasonings. And what I like about them is that they're really complete. They got like everything in it that you need. So I didn't use these tonight because I was using, a different recipe. But she actually created a seasoning blend that's on her YouTube channel, Say What Is Vegan. And it's really, really great in terms of just giving you like a one shake, kind of thing. Makes life a lot easier. Okay. All right. Any other questions? So You asked for the vegan chicken recipe, you'll be getting that. All right. And what else did they ask for? Somebody asked me about eggplant. Did I do this? It's a squash season, y'all. You know, we did last week, we had this huge, and it's actually on Facebook. We had this huge blue Hubbard squash. I mean, really, it was about 40 pounds. And I just saw it as a challenge. Just like, I can't wait to go ahead and do that. And we got into it, and that squash was so good. It was funny, you know, trying to cut into it. But when you look at these pumpkins that people decorate with, and you look at these squashes they just decorate with, it's like, hey, y'all, that's food. You know, that's food. Somebody could be eating that. And so this is squash season, and we got about 4 or 5 different squashes here right now. We won't make them tomorrow, or are we? I don't know if we're doing any squash tomorrow or not. I'm saying here at Trickle B, which is a pay what you can cafe. And we invite you to come. You know, I'm cooking tomorrow from 11 to 2. And again, it's pay what you can. And we're at Trickle B Cafe where we're at, you know, right now. Okay. So my greens are just about ready. Did you all taste your greens? How are they coming out? They taste like they're done yet? They're done? All right. What kind did she make? She used spinach. Oh, yeah. Okay. If you did spinach, your spinach has been ready. Okay. So everybody else, what greens did you do? I'm doing collards. What's her name? She did spinach. Trisha. Trisha did spinach. What about you? What greens did you use tonight?
Cabbage.
Aha. Those are done. Anybody else? So spinach, cabbage, Swiss chard, you know, those kale, those would be done by now. Collards take longer. But if you use any of those other mustard, use mustard. Though the person who used the mustard greens, did you put a little bit of sweetener in there, or you just taking it like it is? LaShonda?
Oh, she said yes, she put some sweetener in there.
She did? Yeah. Yeah. Because they can be really bitter. They can be really bitter. Okay. So y'all got a good variety, you know, and again, don't be afraid to mix it up. Don't be afraid to mix it up, because it is okay. It will work. Okay. Where am I at in terms of time? Because I think it's time for a taste test.
We have about 20 minutes.
20 minutes? I thought I saw 15 somewhere. See, last time I ran out of time, you know, this time I'm like, I'm going to stay on point. And now I got the extra time, but that's okay. You know, that's okay. Again, I'm happy to answer any kind of questions, you know, that you all might have. Not only just about, you know, the greens, but anything as it has to do with plant-based, you know, cooking, and especially for children. You know, my grandchildren, ask them what their favorite food is, they're going to say greens, you know, or they're going to say Brussels sprouts, you know, and other people looking at it like, what kind of kids are that? Well, Brussels sprouts, which they call baby baby cabbages. You know, why do they like them? Because I make them maple glaze. You know, the holidays are coming up. Nobody wants no soggy, you know, burnt up, you know, Brussels sprouts that you call in charred or roasted or whatever. You know, you take the time to go ahead and do it, you know, right, and add just that little bit of maple syrup on it at the end, that everybody is going to absolutely love, you know, those Brussels sprouts this year, including your children. And again, getting back to the children in your service, a lot of times when they have things that they're handling themselves, it makes all the difference in the world. Yeah, they may call it, you know, little cabbages or baby cabbages. It don't matter. As long as they eat it, that's the thing that's most important. Okay, so I believe that my greens are ready. Yep, they're ready. And I'm gonna add just a little bit more. And that's why I said that you use vegetable stock or whatever based upon what it is that you need and how your food is cooking. But this is ready to go. Diana, am I using this plate? You don't hear me. Turn this off right quick. Are you taste tester? Yeah, I will. Okay. Okay. Got our jalapeno cornbread, our greens, our vegan fried chicken with a hot honey, they call, sauce on it. And you want to give me a fork? Pass me a fork. Yeah, you sure ain't trying to be in that camera, okay? Tiana is my shoe self tonight, and she is determined not to be in the camera. Anyway, so who's gonna taste? Somebody got to get up.
This is lovely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty excited. I hope y'all have greens this delicious. It's real good.
You want to try anything else?
I want to try all of it.
Go ahead. Yeah, well, you got a knife. We'll get you a knife. I think you outside the camera now, though. Is she outside the camera?
Okay.
We want to get you in the camera.
All right. So this is the jackfruit chicken.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mindy says looks incredible.
Thank you.
Sweet and spicy.
Yeah.
Got that meat texture. And this is jalapeno
Cornbread.
cornbread.
Yep, that's how you do it, with a little bit of the green. No, that's how you do it.
Oh,
Okay, that's how you do it. She's doing a little dance, y'all. Mhm. That's your plate. Diane, you want to make some other plates? Okay.
Talk a little bit about how children in the kitchen, how
Yeah.
you let your grandchildren help.
No problem, no problem. And so, again, what's important is engaging children in the preparation of the food. Whether or not they're setting the table, which gives them an opportunity to learn a little etiquette, okay? Or they choose the vegetables that are gonna go into the food, maybe washing the vegetables because they, may not be old enough to be at the stove. Again, it's their involvement, the fact that they're hands-on, again, I'm talking from experience with these 52, grandchildren, that we've actually done this, in the kitchen. And so my kids don't turn up their nose at anything. They want it all right? Being able to go ahead and quote unquote play with your food, okay? You could take something like the curly kale. You could take something like curly kale. And yeah, this is really great in a salad raw. But you know what makes it better? Is that when you can take the kale and you can massage the kale, okay? Massaging the kale takes and breaks down the fibers in it, all right? And so if you give your children, kale and tell them, here, I want you to massage it. You think they're not gonna wanna do that? They're like, oh, you want me to really play with the food? They think that's fun, right? But what it does in essence is that it breaks down the kale so that it becomes softer and, much easier to go ahead and eat. And not just for little kids, even for adults. I like massage kale a whole lot better than I do if somebody just put some kale on my plate, and call it a salad. So massage kale, breaks it down. You have a little bit of oil, that's in it. What do we have in this bowl? You know what was in this bowl? Oh, okay, that's why. Because the little bit of oil that was on the carrots is in this bowl already. And that's just making this that's like, what was in this bowl? But, and I'm gonna show you. And this is something that kids would enjoy to do. It's like, oh, you want me to play with that? Sure, go ahead and do that. But by massaging it, as you see there, let me take another one off. But just that little bit of a massage, you see the difference? Okay, again, this is much easier and much more fun to eat than it is if you did it just like this on a plate. All right, let the children do this. They would have a lot of fun. They also can have a lot of fun making kale chips, right? You could take kale. You could take the green kale, or you could take the lacinato kale. And again, if y'all want recipes, I do have recipes that Mary can forward to you for those who want it. You could take the lacinato kale, or you could take the curly kale, all right? And just rip it, have the kids just rip it into pieces. Then we just put it on a sheet, a little oil on it, maybe a little salt or other seasoning that you want. Put it in your oven for, just a few minutes. It comes out, you get kale chips. And guess what? You didn't pay $10 a bag for them, because I have seen kale chips cost that much. All right. So with greens, so many things you can do. So many things your children can do, by getting them involved in it. And don't talk about gardens, right? Being able to have your own garden and grow your own greens. Diane, I'm asking you to bring that sweet potato over. That's sprouting, that sweet potato that's sprouting. Can you bring that? Yeah. There are so many things that children can do. Being able to see something grow from a seed, into something that you can actually eat. One of the things that the catalyst that really got me involved in gardening is that I was on a farm visit with some of my grandchildren one year, and we're walking through this organic farm up north. And they were telling on the tour, and they said, you can eat whatever you want. And so we walked past cherry tomatoes. And so I picked a cherry tomato, popped it in my mouth, and my grandson, I'm like, ugh, Grandma, what are you doing? What are you eating? I said, I'm eating a tomato. He said, that's not a tomato. Tomatoes are in stores. I was like, ooh, that's when I knew I needed to have a garden. My grandson at that time, he almost 40 now. But anyway, my grandson did not know that tomatoes grew on vines in a garden or on a farm. And that was my catalyst to change. You got it? Oh, somebody, okay. Okay, there was a sweet potato plant here that I was going to show you that had started sprouting. And this was something we used to do as kids in school, where they would have you take a sweet potato from home, put toothpicks in it, stick it in a jar, and watch it sprout, right? Yeah, I know, they don't even do that no more. But anyway, what would happen is that then you could take and transplant, that sweet potato in the spring and grow even more sweet potatoes. Something that a lot of people don't know is that the leaves of the sweet potato plant is edible. Okay, I learned that from some of my friends, my West African friends. I had never heard that before either. But the leaves of the sweet potato plant is edible, and it makes a really, really great stew, very similar to spinach. Okay, as you can make as a spinach stew, which is another recipe that if you want it, I'll give it to you. Spinach stew is just absolutely, great. Okay, all kinds of things that you could do with our children. Again, their involvement, they're being able to be hands-on, having a garden, whether or not the garden is inside or outside, whether or not it's inside with a tower, outside, in whatever space that you have, the opportunity that they have to see how food is actually produced can be a lifelong experience. And I have watched, through my own experience in working with Alice's Garden, the children coming there and just being amazed that food actually grows out of the ground and it doesn't come from a store. It's like, who would have known that? Or who would have known that they did not know that? There's so many things that we take, for granted. Fresh food really doesn't take any longer to cook or prepare than frozen food or canned food. In fact, it probably takes less time depending upon what it is that you have. And with just a little bit of planning, you could create these meals that the children will quickly become their favorite, because they not only know where it comes from, but they know what to do with it. They know that it's gonna look good, it's gonna smell good, and it's gonna taste good. And when you get those things together, you got a winning combination. No question about it. Okay. Any other closing questions or comments?
Question about Brussels sprouts. Does syrup take away the bitterness from Brussels sprouts?
I didn't know they were bitter, but what take the bitterness away?
Like using syrup or a sweetener?
Oh, that's just a recipe. I don't do it because I don't do maple braised Brussels sprouts because it takes away the bitterness. I just love Brussels sprouts, but I just do that as a variety. I also do like maple bourbon Brussels sprouts, okay, with the alcohol and stuff. And that's good because that gives it a unique flavor. I use, I do, talking about greens again, I do a maple bourbon collard greens. I do spicy collard greens. I do a lot of different kinds of things, with collard greens. Use your imagination, okay? Because it's unlimited. What I shared with you all tonight was just a base recipe, right? And once you have the base recipe, then again, use your imagination to go ahead and take it to the next level. To me, there's no rights. Well, no, I ain't gonna say no wrongs. There are some things you can do wrong, but you're unlimited in terms of what it is you could do. Do you have to just do mustard and turnip? No. You want to do mustard, turnip, collard, kale? That's all up to you. Okay. Only thing you want to do is to make sure that it tastes good, and it will. Just make sure that you maintain a balance, of your seasonings. Don't be heavy-handed on the salt. Let the salt be the last thing that you add, because as I said earlier, the salt is a flavor enhancer. Salt does not make your food taste good. It just covers up what you did wrong. That doesn't make it taste good. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions?
For Thanksgiving,
Yes.
and someone used tomatoes, hot peppers, onion, garlic, and cilantro tonight.
All of it. That sounds great. All of that. Yeah. And again, if it was left up to me, hey, we got some Scotch bonnet peppers in there, bonnet peppers in there. I would have used it, but I mean, no, this is for kids. You only give that to them, But what you just named, all of that is just really, really good. You can take greens, you can make it into a stew, you can add it to other things. Again, it's unlimited. Don't restrict yourself to just doing it just one way. And yeah, some greens you can eat raw, or all of them you can eat raw, but how you're able to go ahead and make it taste is up to you. Like I just showed you, with the massage kale, this is beautiful, in a salad, whatever salad dressing you want to put on it. If you want to put craisins in it, figs in it, if you want to use sunflower seeds, whatever it is, there's lots of ways that you could go ahead and use your greens. And again, going back to the children, what is it that they get excited about? Would they like to have some cranberries in their greens? In a massage kale salad, they might, they might want to eat it then, but just don't give it to them like this. Okay. Creating their own chips, knowing that they made their own chips. You take the responsibility, of course, of putting it in the oven and bringing it out. But the fact that they even made it themselves, again, gets them excited because it was something that they had a buy-in to, and that's what we always want to have with our children. Okay. Any last questions?
Someone asked about, the cookbook you were talking about earlier, was that, Joya's cookbook?
Right, there's Chef Joya. You can find her, she's all over Instagram and social media. She's on everything. But her name is Chef Joya. She has 5 cookbooks. If you're new to this whole thing, I would say that her first cookbook is the one that you want to get, especially if you're cooking for holiday season. It's like the a basic soul food, cookbook, her very first one, which is really good. And then she goes off into brunch, grilling, she got an African Caribbean, cookbook. She got a cookbook. Her last one was really a family friendly, kind of cookbook. And so in that cookbook, she talks about creating plant-based foods that, that the family, including children, would enjoy. So I would definitely encourage that. Lots of really good recipes in there. Okay. Chef Joya, Joya. It's been great being with you all tonight. Hopefully we have an opportunity to do this again. Feel free to contact me. I'm on Facebook, under Sakia Courtney or Vegan Soul, or contact Mary. If there's some recipes that you wanted that I talked about tonight, we'll make sure we get that to you. I have no problem sharing. And come see me on Fridays at Triple B Cafe from 11 to 2. We'll be right here.
Courtney, can you let everyone know that I put the link to the feedback form in the chat?
Yes, the link to the feedback form is in the chat. So if you enjoyed yourself tonight, you learned something new, or you totally hated it and felt it was a waste of time, whatever it is that you thought, make sure you fill out that feedback form, because it just helps us to go ahead and provide for future sessions. And also too, if there's something that you'd like to see me do or create, I'd be more than happy to come back another time and we can get it on. All right. Thank you. You good? Okay.
Thanks for joining us, everyone, tonight. Once you finish with your feedback form, feel free to log out. Thank you.
No, I did do a picture plate. Always be